Hello everybody, thanks for tuning in. I'm Den Haring and welcome back to my channel, Fish Den 365, and welcome back to Topwater Tuesday. Today, we're going to be talking about one of my favorite styles of bait, a buzz toad style of bait known as the Reaction Innovations Trixie Shark. So let's talk about this bait. This is a well-designed bait by Reaction Innovations. It's another buzz toad type of bait. I love fishing buzz toads. My all-time favorite is the Zoom horny toad. I've mentioned that before on this channel. This is the horny toad, just to give you a comparison, alongside of the Reaction Innovations buzz toad. You can see the buzz toad actually has a narrower profile, but is a bit longer and has the bigger tails. So I fish a lot of different toads, but there's three that I fish primarily, and they are in order of the most action to the least action. Is the Strike King Rage toad. That thing's got tails that just churn up the water really, really loudly and in a large way. Good time to use that is when there's a chop on the water and or when the fish are very active, maybe pre-frontal with a storm coming or dark conditions. Good time to use the Strike King bait. This Reaction Innovations Trixie Shark is in the middle of this grouping. It has good kick and makes quite a bit of action. And then you have my favorite of all time, the horny toad, which is quite a bit of a subtler action. And I like that for the waters that I fish, because the waters that I fish are primarily quite pressured, and I think that subtler action tends to catch more fish under those circumstances. But if you have waters that are less pressured, or if you have days where the conditions are right, maybe you have a bit of chop on the water, then this one, the Reaction Innovations, could be a very good toad to fish. Like I said, it's very well designed. We'll go into some of the design details in just a second. But between those three toads, they probably make up the majority, maybe 95% of the toads that I fish. And of the three, I do fish the horny toad the most, but this Reaction Innovations toad demands some more attention, and it can be fished in some different ways other than just topwater. You can actually use this on a Carolina rig. You can pitch and flip this thing around, so it makes it a very versatile bait, and even as a topwater, it's quite versatile. So if you look at the thumbnail on this video, you'll see that they've used, the rigging on it has used just a standard EWG type hook, and they used this, a nose cone. So this, I don't remember the name of this, but I can put it on I can try and link it for you on the description. It has a little screw eye on one side, and it's just a plastic nose cone. It doesn't really have any weight to it, but you can put your line through it. It's a line through. Put your line through it, and then you can twist it into the Trixie Shark. And so the purpose of this nose cone is to help shed weeds, and it does a good job with that. It does work. It is a good way to rig it. But I have a more favorable way to rig it, and that is to use one of these owner twist lock type hooks, where you just put this pin right in the nose of the bait, and then you just twist the bait right down onto the hook. And I'll just go right all the way to the base of the hook so that it hides the entire twist lock portion of the rig, and then I would just rig it right through the middle of the bait. And then there's even a fin on the back of the lure that you can put that hook into, and makes it quite weedless. And then it's just a slight press of the hook, and the hook becomes exposed when the fish bites down on it, and you can set the hook. I prefer this method more than using the nose cone for a couple of reasons. One is this hook, the owner twist lock hook, tends to be a little bit heavier. It makes a better keel. It balances the bait better, in my opinion, and it holds up very well with the bait. This is a good rigging too. There's nothing wrong with using the nose cone. If you prefer that, then I would say do that. But if you're wondering what I think is the best, or if you're looking for advice, I'd say that twist lock works even better still. It locks this hook into the bait. And this bait is quite durable. You can catch multiple fish on these things before you have to change them out. So that's one of the big advantages of the Trixie Shark. And you can see it's got these bigger tails. There is a section of tail that's quite thin, and the reason for that is to get good action on the surface. But if you have muskie or pike or pickerel and they tend to bite the back of the lure, they can bite those tails off. Something to be aware of. It's still worth throwing the bait though, because the thing it catches fish. It's a very good, it has very good action. I like throwing this bait in pads, especially because of that narrow profile. It's even more narrow than the horny toad, and because it is, I can get it to fit in between those pad leaves a little bit better. I can keep it in the water when I'm throwing it through pads a little bit more than a horny toad. So I like it for pad fishing. It works well in those environments. It also works well over grass, like over milfoil beds, that kind of thing. Very good bait that way. If you notice, it's got these side fins on it too, and a keel on the bottom. That allows the bait to work very well steadily through the water. It planes through the water very well. Like I said, it's a very well designed bait that way, in that and when you rig it this way, generally you want that hook facing down, and it does a good job in keeping the hook down that way, and so therefore you have a better chance of getting a good hook set on the bass. What size hook do you use? 5/0 or 6/0? 6/0 is probably even a better size hook for this bait since it's longer, but 5 or 6/0 is the size that you should use. I use a Dobbins Fury horny toad rod. It's just a rod set up for buzz toads. It's perfect for this. I think it's about 7 foot long. I like to use straight braid when I can get away with it, 50-pound test. So if I'm throwing this thing through a lot of cover, I'm using straight braid. Even if I'm not throwing it in cover, if I can keep my rod up and keep the braid out of the water while I'm working the bait, I'll do that. And so almost all the time when I fish a toad, I'm using braided line. You got this thing coming, you're working it pretty fast in most cases. Generally the fish aren't going to be seeing that line, especially if you can keep it out of the water. And one of the ways to keep it out of the water is to use a high-speed reel. I use a Abu Garcia Revo rocket, and that is like a extremely 10-to-1 gear ratio, extremely fast. The nice thing about that is you cast it out there on a long cast. As soon as it hits the water, you begin that retrieve, and it's right up on the surface already, because it doesn't take a lot of quick retrieving to get it to come up with that fast gear ratio reel. That's why I really like those for toad fishing. Now you can do some things with this. Obviously you can buzz it across the water, and you can play with the speed of that buzz. It changes the sound that the tails make. This is true for the horny toad and for the rage shad as well. You can mess around with speed, slow, medium, fast. Oftentimes I find that starting slow and going faster and faster seems to make the fish react better, almost like a reaction strike, where they feel like it's getting away and they have to run it down and get it. That works very well. But you could also do things like throw this out in the pads, work it along the surface, maybe have a hole in the pads, and you can just kill it and just let this thing go down, and it'll spiral down. And it's just like the horny toad. I do the same thing with that. It'll spiral down, and you can catch fish under the surface as well, and then just bring it back up to the surface if nothing happens. So another way that you can fish the Reaction Innovations Trixie Shark. So important things to remember: you want a good rod with good backbone to get those fish out of the cover. High speed reel is important for this as well. You want that braided line whenever you can get away with it and use it. No stretch, so therefore when a fish grabs the bait, you're getting a solid hook set on the fish. Those things combined make your toad fishing a whole lot better. Well, if you got something out of this video and you felt that it was good information, please hit that like button. That helps me get more views. If you haven't done so yet and you're watching my videos, please subscribe to the channel. Hit that bell when you do. That way you'll get a notification when the next video is going out. It'll really help me if you can subscribe. Figuring out the YouTube algorithm is I think it's harder than catching a 6-pound bass. So if you're getting something out of these videos, I'd appreciate it if you subscribe. Until next time, hope to see you out in the water. Be safe, and may God bless your fishing endeavors.